Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at a company called Africa CyberSec.
Okay.
And, they're a cybersecurity company that really kind of caught my attention recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing some interesting stuff, especially with their mission, I guess you could say, to improve online security. But here's the thing, they're actually a Canadian company.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they're making, they're really starting to make a name for themselves all across Africa,
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty fascinating. I mean, you don't see that every day, right?
that's true. A Canadian company focusing on cybersecurity in Africa. It's definitely unique.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of why I wanted to deep dive into it, to figure out what their approach is, what they're doing,
Yeah.
and why they're focusing on Africa specifically.
Yeah, it suggests they've probably identified some very specific needs in the African cybersecurity landscape.
Right. And they seem to be tailoring their services to meet those needs.
Hmm.
So on their website, they list a whole a range of services like anti-phishing protection, consultations. They even have a CyberSec Academy with all sorts of training programs.
Wow, that's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, it is. And they mentioned having experts with over 30 years of experience
Hmm.
in all sorts of areas, like financial fraud prevention, threat intelligence, all that.
Yeah, having that kind of deep expertise definitely lends them some credibility.
Oh, for sure. But I'm kind of wondering, like, what actually sets their approach apart from others, especially when it comes to that anti-phishing stuff?
Well, that's a good question because phishing attacks are definitely becoming more and more sophisticated, especially in regions that are, going through this rapid digital adoption, like many parts of Africa.
Right, exactly.
So I'd imagine that Africa CyberSec probably leverages localized threat intelligence, information about specific threats in each region.
Hmm.
And they probably also use education programs to help people understand how to identify and avoid these scams.
That makes sense. And I guess having a real on-the-ground presence in those countries,
Yeah.
like they do in Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana,
Right.
well, that probably helps them tailor their solutions even more effectively.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another thing that stands out is their commitment to offering their services in both English and French.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and they do it both online and in person, which, I mean, it really shows that they're trying to make cybersecurity accessible to as many people as possible.
I agree. And it makes sense given the linguistic diversity of Africa. It can definitely be challenging for a company to navigate that.
For sure. But it's definitely commendable that they're making that effort, right?
Hmm,
To provide services in multiple languages.
absolutely. Although you have to wonder about the consistency of the quality, right, across all those different linguistic and cultural contexts.
That's a good point. How do they ensure that the information and training is equally relevant and effective for everyone, regardless of the language they speak?
Right, exactly. That's something I'd be curious to learn more about.
Me too. And speaking of learning more about them, their website has a whole section of testimonials from people like Peace Folly, Mariam Signan, Ine Iberizim,
Hmm.
Victor Ekher, Mamadou Hawabalde, quite a few. And they all seem to suggest that Africa CyberSec really made a positive impact.
That's great to hear.
Hmm?
But it makes you wonder, what were the specific challenges these individuals faced? And how exactly did Africa CyberSec help them overcome those challenges?
Yeah. I'd love to kind of get a more granular view of that. Like, did they help a small business owner protect themselves from a ransomware attack?
Right. Or did they go into communities and educate people about online scams, things like that?
Exactly. I think those individual stories could really give us a clearer picture of their approach.
I agree. And it would help us understand how effective they really are.
So to wrap things up, if anyone listening is, interested in connecting with Africa CyberSec, there are a few ways to do it. They have their email, contact@africacybersec.com, and a phone number, 702-744-5754.
Got it.
Or you can even visit one of their physical locations across Africa. They have quite a few.
It definitely seems like they are aiming to be a major player in bolstering cybersecurity across the continent.
Yeah, they're certainly making a strong effort. And it really makes you think, with Africa continuing its digital transformation, are we going to see more companies like this emerge?
Probably.
What kind of innovations will they bring to the table, especially to address this, ever-evolving cybersecurity landscape?
It's an important question for sure.
Definitely. Well, I think this deep dive has sparked a lot of questions for me, and I'm sure there's much more to explore in this space. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.